and welcome to another of our Masters specials. I'm Lucky Sixes and joined, as always, for these Masters by...
Oh, that's where I jump in, isn't it?
Maddie P.
Joined by Maddie P from the Third Weapons podcast. How are you, Lucky Sixes?
Very, very good. Very good. Looking forward to the Masters. But I feel a bit bad that I'm leaving you to it.
You are, aren't you? Oh, you traitorous dog, you.
No.
I know, because you've only gone and qualified, haven't you?
Well, that's it. And as viewers from this channel will know, if you roll enough sixes, you get to Masters. So there we go. But here we are, and it's not just us. We are here joined today by some very lovely people.
We are. We're joined by a couple of Gargants of the Ninth Age, aren't we? We've got two other members of the England ETC team. We've got the captain, Hugh Scarlin, and a debutant, Wes Wheeler. Welcome to Tom's podcast, videocast. I've got to get used to the videocast thing.
I never know whether it's a video cast or a blog or a vlog or something like that. Anyway, enough of that. How are you guys, Hugh and Wes?
I suppose I'd describe vlog.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't feel much like a ninth age Gargant, by the way.
I'll leave it to the young whippersnapper to get the correct term that the user using these days.
Yeah.
Oh, nonsense. Both of you bestride the Ninth Age like the colossi you are.
Always so kind, Matt.
I'm feeling a bit colossi after Christmas myself, to be honest.
Well, I'm more potato than man, truth be told.
But thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. We are here to talk about the road to Masters, because we were all very excited, and there's been lots of content already released. But how on earth did we get here? It's simple, some would say. If I could. Here we go. Lots of events. Lots of events.
But it doesn't seem like a year ago, though, does it, Lucky Sixes? It's come around fast again, and of course, who's it going to be in 23?
Exactly. Yeah.
Been a long old road, though, hasn't it?
It has. Many a place. Lots of venues, some new ones as well, and some new types of events this year, which obviously we'll get into. But 13 events in total, which is actually more than last year. I know last year was a little bit subbed at the start with COVID reasons, and we seem to have flown through that. Touch every bit of wood you can. But yeah, more events is really interesting.
It was a bit of a hybrid this year, wasn't it? 2022, because obviously we were coming out the back of the UB stuff, so everyone went absolutely bonkers for real life stuff, and that was great. But there were still a couple of lingering UB tournaments out there, which I think was an interesting mix, I thought.
Yeah, very much so. And I guess what taught us over the COVID period was that the UB events can be really fun, and we'll get into it later in a little bit more detail. That definitely still carried on. The idea that as well that Ruby should be part of the rankings was an interesting one as well, and to carry on even though all these real life tournaments and it worked.
Yeah. I'm glad that it's been carried over, actually.
Yeah, very much.
Those skills to use. Having to learn UB and Warhol and everything, being able to actually, carry that on rather than just for practice games, it's good.
Yeah, right. Well, and very much so with Hugh being here, especially. One of the UB. I mean, we're talking about Gargants. He's a UB Gargant, right?
He's a UB enthusiast.
Yes.
I've started my Warhol as well now. I finally got round, because all those Europeans will cuss you out if you try and use UB on them.
Fair enough.
Yeah, they get very cross, don't they?
Yeah.
And the Americans as well. I think it's just us.
Those 6-hour text chat games with them as well.
Is it mainly just UK, you think, sticking to their guns of UB?
I don't think I've noticed any other scene anywhere that hasn't made like at least most of a jump to Warhol. I think it's just us left.
Agreed.
Like, I think, that if you can organize yourself before the game, this is getting very off topic, but I think if you can organize yourself before game and have your magic cards and stuff set up and your army ready, I think with the improvements they've made to it, I think it's
sure.
pretty close.
Yeah.
It's not far off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that has sort of changed the format of, say, UB events in UK, though, because they are now online events rather than UB events. So, but again, we'll get onto that. But yeah, 13 events. I mean, looking at the numbers as well, some pretty decent numbers floating around still. 60 at Art of War, 51 at English Championships. Don't look at the spelling. 38 at Breakthrough, for example. So we're still getting decent numbers. Probably dropped off some of the bigger ones. So you're not seeing as many of the huger numbers. But I mean, far from dead, right?
Yeah, we still had 157 active UK players at a tournament, playing in at least one tournament over the year. So
yeah, well, I'm glad
and,
someone's done their research.
I know that even at Hugh and I play at the same club in Kent. We've got half a dozen 9th Age players, and Hugh and I are the only ones who have the time, I guess, who are able, want to go to tournaments. So as not huge as the 9th Age UK scene looks, I think it's bigger than tournaments would suggest.
I agree.
Yeah. No, I'd echo that. Obviously up in Manchester, we've got a pretty thriving sort of about 15, 16 players, of which about 4 or 5 of us play regularly at tournaments. So there's some there's a lot of good players out there who aren't doing tournaments quite yet. We've obviously had Luke Moffat played his first tournament at Breakthrough, and we got another new player who's going to be doing a bit of commentary for us. This is a good name for this one. All right, Abdul Qadir Pemberton is going to be coming on to do some of the commentary with us over the weekend of the Masters as well. So I can't wait to be calling a game with Kid.
Yeah, we've got a decent amount of guests for the weekend coming in a few days' time because this gets released next Tuesday. So we're really looking forward to that. While we're on that, and before we get on to the event details specifically, if I can talk, we'll just briefly show you the schedule that we have for the Masters content. We're already halfway through it. Obviously, thank you to Wes for the live draw.
Live draw that will be happening in 6 days.
Yeah,
for me.
exactly.
Your past, my future.
I would say, did I miss something?
Yeah.
Like list submission.
It's that weird recording time. Right? So,
Yes, yeah.
So, yeah. And obviously, you all saw our Who's yesterday.
Yes, that's being recorded tomorrow.
So yes, there is our schedule. Make sure you go check out all of the content providers. We've got about 9, 10 all included in this the hype train, I guess. So really, really cool and really awesome to see, including the Paired Weapon podcast, Matty.
Absolutely. Yeah, we did our interviews. Well, it was last night in real times, but it's because last week by the time this gets live, so that's already out there. Also, by the time this hits, we'll have done the list reviews as well with another colossus of the 9th Age, with Craig. So it's going to be quite something. I'm really looking forward to seeing some of the selections this year. I think there's going to be some quite interesting choices.
Yeah, very much so. So shall we get straight into the events?
Let's do it.
Number one event, always a good one, especially because it's during the Masters period. Is the Masters Open happening again this year? But last year run by Jordan Bladen in Bordin-Brum alongside the Masters. And this is always a really good tournament for people just to go along to and get a chance to win, right?
Well, absolutely. I mean, the obvious advantage of going to this is that the 16 best players in the country aren't playing. So, it's a good opportunity for those of us who are, how should we put this, more modestly talented to occupy the limelight for a change. As you can see, I didn't. There you go.
Well, you were very selfishly or selflessly doing the coverage, so you weren't in and a similar.
I'm sure otherwise I would have definitely featured. But there you go. So it's but it was also the first year that the winner of the Masters Open didn't automatically qualify for the Masters as well, isn't it? So
Yeah, first one in a while for that.
Mm.
So that was interesting. Well done to Matt Pell. I know he literally smashed face and has been doing pretty well at a lot of tournaments as well. It's if he can get to 4, I think he'll reach Masters one of these years.
He knows how to push his worries list for sure.
He does.
Mm.
He does very much
yes.
so. And another thing to note is it was 32 players played in the Masters Open last year, and you add that on to the 16 that were playing at the actual Masters. You got nearly 50 players going to a weekend, which is awesome, really.
Yeah.
I was really surprised looking at this spread of points. Actually, really, I'm surprised. I mean, there's only 2 people over 70 on a 32-player event. That seems a bit unusual to me.
Absolutely. I
Clearly
think
very close.
Matt as well getting an 85 really makes it quite a massive. That's a pretty big score. There's not many that get over 85 and don't win. So yeah, no, lovely. And Jordan always puts on a good show, does some good grub as well. So
yes, the food at Jordan's events are always fantastic.
Yeah,
agreed.
But yeah, that's the first one, and it kicked us off for the year, which is brilliant.
I should say before we move on as well, Matt
Yeah.
Pell finished 1 place outside of where he needed to be to qualify for Masters, so he did do very, very well this year.
He was so close. He was so
very close.
I'm not even like I said, I'm not even sure he got the 4 as well.
I think he might be on 3.
Yeah. So it's just but I know he has. It's always good fun to talk to and always good fun to play. They're done in about 20
Matt Pell,
minutes.
he's a good lad, isn't he? But always the bridesmaid, eh? So,
but not this
there you go.
time. This is your time to shine, Matt Pell. So enjoy it.
He did do 4 events,
Or
but
did
at
just-
least he did get to 4 events.
Moving on to Art of War and a big 60-man. Always really good. Done by this year Dan and Matt of the Bristol Ninjas, but obviously Shane and Callum are often involved. I think they were in this one, just in a lesser regard. And one that one of our first events actually, and one that we cover quite a bit along with Ryan, I should shout out, who's done a lot for the prizes. The prizes were incredible this year.
Yeah, they always are down in Bristol, aren't they? Just absolutely unbelievable. If swords you like, and I do, then swords is what you're going to get because, Dan gets some awesome prizes in.
Yeah, there was all sorts. You had like a cabinet's worth of like miniatures, paints, paintbrushes, the swords, the wooden spoon prize was amazing as well.
Yeah, Ryan in particular does a really good job of speaking to people. Lots of STLs as well available to people through. There was a charity event, I think, that they did. I forget the charity off the top of my head. But
Table 1 was live streamed all weekend as well.
Table 1 was live streamed
in a separate room.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and it was. I mean, always is with Art of War. Really, really, really good event. Really good atmosphere. And 60 people still managed to get there.
And they also did food. I remember that we got breakfast there as well.
Yeah.
And this was the one during the storm we mentioned earlier. This was when trains were cancelled and everything, and Artem made it down by taking a taxi on the Saturday morning and spending £250 to get there.
Taxi from London to Bristol.
Absolute commitment that was. I think we gave him a spot prize just because of that. It was like most commitment or something. It was something crazy.
Spent the most to be here.
Yeah.
I mean, on the Friday night, it was like Armageddon around the country, wasn't it? I mean, it was just there was no one who's going to make it. But then Saturday, it was all clear, and 4 o'clock in the morning, the M6 was just packed with nerds heading for Bristol. So it was.
And speaking of which, Tanker got his first win of the year, and we'll saw that, and with his Dread Elves this time, which is a very nice touch. Mark, big shout out to him. He actually made the Masters but couldn't make it this year, and always does. The last few years especially has done exceedingly well with his highborns.
He beat me in round 2 as well on his way there, so you're welcome, Mark.
and there was a slight controversy, not really, but controversy with third place as well. Which was a exclusive on your podcast, wasn't it?
It was. So Graham, who was on the podcast last night, and Ed unfortunately couldn't make it. They both finished equal third on points, but were differentiated by VP. And Graham was absolutely adamant that is no way to differentiate. So he has offered to bring the sword that he won down at Art of War to the Masters, and it will be distributed to Ed if he beats him at the Masters. So that's very, very honourable indeed.
Yeah, a gauntlet has been laid down.
It's whoever
So Ed,
finishes
if
the
you're out
weekend
there,
with the most like kill points, the not 20-0 scores. It's the other one, the kills.
yes, yeah.
God, that's
Yeah,
we're all going to be watching that, aren't we?
Yeah, that's it.
Distracting from the.
Going to
That's
be
the
a
main
nice little
event,
side quest, that one, for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, nothing but good things to say about Bristol, big and Out of War as a tournament. Really good. If anybody can get down
and
to
not as cold as it was previously since they swapped venues
Yes.
as well.
Well, yeah, it's much warmer in this venue.
Yeah, much nicer.
Good venue.
I should say as well, this year I think we're approaching 50 already signed up to that as well, and if people get a move on, we can probably push it to 60 as well. So it should be looking like a well-attended event this year as well.
Yeah, promising considering we've had a bit of a tail off.
Yeah.
Towards the end of this year, it's nice that we can still pull the numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think all the work that they put into that does probably help with that as well. But moving on to our third and equally as important Scottish Championships. So this is the first of the auto qualifications that came along. Up in Common Ground games in Stirling. One I've not yet travelled to. It's on my to-do list. It's one of the few venues around the UK I haven't been to, actually.
It's a great venue. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, super town as well. There's a good night out. There's Stirling Castle. There's the Battle of Bannockburn. There's but most importantly, there's a travel lodge like 10 yards away.
Yes, it's not far at all. There's a dog there, and they also did food.
Yeah. I did I started out my tournament scene at Common Ground essentially when I was up in Scotland.
Nice.
That was where we're doing all the events were basically at Common Ground. It's a great little venue. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've been told that. And Dan Minto decided that he was going to rock up, win the event, and then not turn up to a single other event for the rest of the year, just to show how manly he is. As a mate, brilliant.
That's brilliant.
I've already on your podcast, mate. He's my man. If he can go to one event, win it, and then win the Masters, he is a true master. That is a true master.
Right there. He's absolutely long balling that, isn't he? It's that would be just a great story, wouldn't it? Talk about smash and grab job.
Yeah.
I guess we'll have to the committee for the Masters of what the captains and whatnot. We'll have to maybe cut all these Scotch champ and Welsh champ things. He'll be like, no, that doesn't happen anymore. We can't. This can't happen again.
But another pretty well attended event, 38 for a physical event. Pretty good numbers. Run by Team Scotland, Ed and Fraz. Interesting that Ed nearly won it. Winning your own tournaments, that's bad form, isn't it? Really?
No,
He did finish second.
Yeah.
It is 70p, to be fair. Nearly is maybe a bit generous.
True.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. I say always pretty good attended event actually, and I know they're always looking to pump it, and it's a pretty fun event as they go as well. 3-hour rounds as well, so it was quite nice on that front, quite chilled. So
how European?
Yes, right. Yes. Well, it is a different country, so
they want to be in Europe.
Yeah, it's true.
Who can blame them?
But yeah, no, a great one, and nice to see Tanker doesn't win everything as well, right? Down way down in 5th.
Disgraceful.
Shout out to Tom Clues, who had a few good events again this year and actually made the Masters, but can't make it because of good news, because he's having a baby and moving house. It's good. It depends on your perspective, right? I guess the baby front. If you like sleep. But yeah, no. Big congratulations to him, and we wish him all the best, and look to catch up with him when he's come back. And John Turner always does well at Scotland. That's definitely his home ground in terms of events and one thing he does. So
yep, very solid ogre player. Yep.
Moving on to our first of two online. Careful of the wording there. Events. We have Massacre. Nearly. Did you play in this, Wes? Or you played in
this was one of the few that I didn't go to this year.
Yes, I should say before we move on, there's 13 events. Do you know how many you went to, Wes?
I can take a look. So I went to the Masters Open. I went to Art of War. I went to the Scottish Champs. I went to BCB Teams. I went to the English Championships. I went to Froome. I went to Cardiff Clash. I went to Last Brawl, and I took part in Breakthrough. So 9 events this year.
You are which is half the reason I've got you on here in the first place. Our most attended.
I was chipping away and scrabbling away at the grabbing all the points that I possibly could, scraping up into 14th, 15th place, whatever it is.
No, very good. And I say this was, I guess, one of the rare few that you didn't go in, but Hugh and I played in this. Not only was it UB or online, sorry, should I say? It was a group/knockout, which was an interesting way of doing it, and one of the benefits of the online tournaments, I guess.
Yeah, it just means that you can do really weird formats. It's just like it makes, and I know a couple of guys, or Glenn took part in this, didn't he, Hugh?
Mm-hmm.
So this is, the online events means that, if you can spare a little bit of time over 6 weeks or so, you can go to an event that you otherwise wouldn't be able to go to, because you have to spare like an entire weekend or whatever. So keeping these alive are really great for those kind of players who want to go but can't spare the time. So.
And that's. I think one of Paul's mantras actually is that Paul Godbold of the Fantasy Wargaming podcast as well, also does some stuff for the hype train for the Masters. I think he's doing the matchups as well later this week, so that'd be good. But yeah, one of the things he said was, I personally can't go to 4 events or 5 events, so something like this that now can be ranked is really appealing to him, and he's really happy to. TO it, I guess, from that point of view, and allow players to do it. So really, really cool. 5K as well. Another thing that models and stuff don't matter as much because we're not going to get them out physically on the table. They're free as well. No cost to it. I guess other than having to have a computer, right? Which are number one. Which is a cost.
Free.
But, yeah, yeah, one of those. But yeah. So really, really cool. I know I really enjoyed it. Hugh, how did you find the 5K and the group and knockout setup?
I really enjoyed it for the most part. Yeah, it was fun. I think I don't really remember much from the group stages, if I'm being honest. The biggest thing I remember about this tournament was how badly Jake stuffed me in the final.
Well, that's all right, Hugh, because we could probably talk about the semi-final that you absolutely stuffed me on. But yeah, no, it was a lot of 20s actually. I saw in looking through all the.
There was quite a lot of talk at the time, wasn't there, about format of sort of Swiss chess versus this sort of knockout element, and I thought it was a really interesting experiment. I'm quite a fan of this. I think it promotes aggressive play early on, and and then gives you a slightly different dimension of play, doesn't it? Because when you're into the knockouts, then it's 11-9's fine, but early on it's not. So I quite like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Very World Cuppy.
Yeah, right. Yeah, very good.
There were a few unusual scenarios in this one, weren't there? I think.
Yeah, there was. Well. So he used for this one was the a lot of the supplement scenarios, and was one of the first ones of this year, and they have been used a bit more actually throughout this year, and you'll have that as a theme. But yeah, like things like Carnage and all sorts we used in this, so that was really cool. And then get into the knockouts again. It wasn't it was just you win or you lose. It wasn't there was no draw or objective. Well, the objective helped and stuff, but yeah, that was really interesting. So yeah, no, big fan of this. Well done, Paul, and well done, Jake, for stuffing Hugh in the final and winning it. Quite a nice little thing. You can have like a 11-9 it all the way, I guess, and then just need to get it through in the final, or 20-0 everyone and then lose the final and come second. Very interesting, really interesting. moving on to, and again, another thing I like about this year, BCB Teams. So Teams is now featured on this because if you get a Teams result, you can add it to one Teams event, can add to your rankings, which is really cool. And I think probably is good for the scene in terms of ETC, right, as well, and that sort of idea, because it actually promotes that and promotes people coming to team tournaments with people that are going to be going, because there are practice things and like Six Nations as well for team events. But this is nice that anyone can just turn up and do it. Wes, you were the captain of the Canterbury Crusaders, which is a lot harder to say than I originally thought.
Yes, so that's our gaming club that we that Hugh and I go to, and then Glenn and Jay as well. And then we because Glenn knows Dan Tournaments, he made up our fourth member, which
not a bad
very
ringer.
Useful. Oh yeah. We the other three of us took matches that we reckoned we could do, and then we just threw whatever was left at Dan, and he'd come back and go, "Yeah, it's fine. I got 12 points." Cool, thanks, Dan.
Nice.
Thank you for being here. And this is my second highest score out of my 4 scores that took me to Masters. So I brought Dan T to a tournament, and that's taken me to Masters as well, which was great.
So yeah, KOE aren't OP enough. You brought Dan T along with you as well.
Oh yes, yeah, I brought Dan T as well. I brought OP KOE, and then Dan complained all weekend as well that I kept on the matchup predictions. I was like, oh no, this is a red. I can't do that. And Dan was like, what do you mean it's a red? You've brought KOE. You should be able to take anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
Was this the event with the where people ended up in the pub on lunchtime Saturday?
Yes. I think a couple of the teams shook on scores.
Saturday lunchtime.
Yeah, and then went off to the pub for a couple of hours.
Yeah, now that's the sort of tournament I could definitely get involved in.
Another shout out to Jordan Bladen. 10 teams, 40 people. Pretty good for a country thing. Back up in Borden Brum in Walsall, a good venue as well. For people that perhaps watching this and are purely used to singles, and I'll go to ETC England captain Hugh for this. Explain what I mean by capped and teams and things.
So with team tournaments, you each round it's the four sets of 20 nils, but you can't get more than, I think for this 4-man, I think it was maybe 65-35.
Yeah, that
might have been 60-40, but I think it was 65-35. Essentially, it's to stop someone like the England Roses or the Old Boys Club coming across the lowest ranked team in the first round, smashing them 100-0, and then no one being able to catch them for the rest of the tournament.
Yeah,
that's basically what it is. It's because it can give you too much of an advantage from a favourable first round draw that no one else can catch up to you, essentially. Yeah. And then you could just play really defensive for the last round against that other team competing for the first spot, and they'll have no chance.
Yeah. So I mean, this was won, as you've mentioned, by the England Roses, Tanker being one of that, and adding to his second win of the year. We'll do. I'm sure there'll be a ting or something. I'll edit in from his point of view for that. Then followed by Team Old Boys, Team Ireland, the Canterbury Crusaders, and I couldn't fit Canterbury on. It was a.
No, we had a nice long team name for that.
Yeah, and then Team Drunk, 5th. 10 teams as well, so a good showing from everyone.
I should say before we move on, because they won't forgive me otherwise, but Glenn and Jay, this was their only in-person tournament of the year. And, we finished 4th, and they were half the team. They did fantastic.
Yeah, man.
So they also contributed to my, going to Masters this year. So
now, I haven't had the pleasure of meeting Jay, but Glenn is an absolute legend. He's such a good bloke.
I believe he played an awful lot more of 8th edition tournaments because it was all pre little ones. And he's got 4 of them now, so which is why getting to tournaments is a little bit more problematic.
And when he's not wrangling children, he also runs an ambulance response team, doesn't he? He's a manager of a paramedic thing, so he's also a hero in real life as well. So.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He got me into ninth age actually. If I met Glenn first, when I was getting into ninth age, and he's like my first opponent and everything. So lent me models before I had my own army and everything as well.
Very cool. Very cool. Oh, well done, Glenn.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can drag them to more tournaments this year.
Yeah, man. So moving on to the second of the auto qualification tournaments, the English Championships held up in Stockport.
Yes.
Element Games by none other than Mikey Newman, long-time TO, I guess. You can take that title. Again, another good tournament, 51 players. Mikey likes to keep it simple in the tournament format. But really good, well-attended event. And, I mean, the most controversial win of any tournament ever?
No, it's traditional for the English champs to be won by someone who's not English.
Oh, but Kev came so close.
I know.
So close. It was, it was. I watched the last hour of that game as well, and it was very swingy. It definitely could have gone Kev's way.
Yeah, absolutely. And some high scorers as well there. 73 up from Hugh, putting a good show in, all the way up to Kieran. Well done, Kieran. With his the only downside to Kieran winning, I have no problem with him being Irish, is he's taking vermin swarms, man. Which means I've got to look at the vermin swarms book when we go to Masters. No one else is. God, can't believe
it's also a risk for that army swap as well, isn't it?
Yeah, right. See it. What was it? Eagle standards. Honestly. But yes, no,
Dreadful.
well played. I'll put that aside. And a really good event. Another good showing from Tom. Obviously, Kev getting so close. And Care as well.
He won Best Painted as well. So he nearly did the sweep, didn't he? But
Not to be this time. Maybe next year.
And Care in there with his VC as well. Very solid player, Care. Another Team Ireland player out of Denmark, obviously.
But again, another. I mean, I imagine I'll say this about every tournament, but another tournament that is well attended and a really good atmosphere and sorts out food, Wes, as well.
Does food. Mikey always brings food. Yeah. It's always Subway sandwiches. It's great.
Did the 9 that you went to, the 4 others, not provide food?
Let me see. So I got food, because that was Jordan. Food at Mikey's. Froome is in a. We'll talk about that one next.
Yeah.
Food, I think. Yep, food. That one's got a bar in. That's food again.
Yeah. Now we've worked it out.
Yeah.
Now we've worked it out.
It's all does food.
Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that next year as well. On the things, I'll do a tick box for food, and we'll see which venues do that. But yeah, always a good venue and always good to get in travel up to. As we mentioned, Froome Bike Club. Now, I should give him, Jack Austin, a special mention as well, because they did Froome Fisticuffs earlier on in the year, perhaps a month before this, as well. And it wasn't a ranked event, but was a one-dayer that was really cool and people went to, which is good. Similar to how Rory runs a lot of London events as well, like one-dayer things, just no painting restrictions or anything like that, just to have a bit of fun with tournaments. So while we're on here talking about all the ranked tournaments and everything, a big shout out to Jack and Rory and others that all provide the fun tournaments and stuff and get some good numbers as well. So well done to them. But let's talk about Froome Fight Club. And this is when you went to Wes and got third.
Yeah, I managed to sneak into third despite getting 3 losses.
Yeah.
Those wins were very big wins.
If you look at all the... you were only 2 points away. Look, you were saying about not getting over 70 in the top 5. Not a single person got over 70, even the winner.
No, it was a very, very tight tournament, this one. I played both Artem and Mark. They were 2 of my losses, I should say.
Yeah.
But I did play both of them. And then I played Terry and then a couple of guys who I haven't seen before. I can't remember names off the top of my head.
Sure. But yeah, really ultra tight event. And you look at the winner, Mr. Tommy Tucker.
Tommy Tucker. What are you doing up there, Tommy?
Absolutely, I give him so much stick after this. But you look at his day one, loss, win, loss. You're not thinking you're winning a tournament after that, but here he comes, steamrolling up the
absolutely
submarine.
on his tractor, just bang straight through the gate, wasn't he? No, he's having it.
And a a win on VPs by the looks of it as well.
Yeah.
Extremely close.
Absolutely. So just awesome to see Tommy win a tournament, and it's a good tournament as well. I know with Artem doing pretty well, and again, this is one of the ones you'll see him on. He's had a really, really good year with the Sylvan Elves, and Ollie making the cut for 5th as well. So yeah, well done. It's in I should say it's Chester House Social Club. It's not just a house. With that again, a bit of space on there, but yeah, 12 players. You standard. I think it was standard and Swiss. I couldn't work out whether it was in any custom scenarios.
Yes, no, it was just it was regular ones.
Yeah,
you gave me enough time, I could tell you which missions and in which order, but I'd
No,
kind
it's
of have to,
quite all
I'd have to
right.
go look for the books.
The standard missions mixed in.
Don't think
with
that
the
matters very
standard
well.
Deployment. Lovely. On to T9A Clash, run by Slatch. This was one of 2 Cardiff events, which I mean we should say about Firestorm. Probably, I haven't been to Common Grounds, which I know is a very good one, but for me, Firestorm is way up there in class at the minute. Absolute gorgeous venue. A bit out in the sticks.
Car showroom, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's like the whole front is glass, and then it's got like this big staircase in the middle onto like the upstairs is like a big inside balcony. It's and then they've got like the cafe up in the top left and everything. It's fantastic.
Yeah. I think it's one of the top quality events of the UK in terms of venues, especially. But T9 Clash run by Slatch, and the only thing about the scenarios and things was it was sort of like a prep for ETC. They ran the same ones that were drawn on the Ped Weapon vodcast, right?
That's true. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Your one and only video so far?
It is our one and only video thus far. But it was so nerve-wracking. Let me tell you. I don't know how you do this day in, day out. Like you
well,
said,
I mean, you say this. You smashed us up in the suit front. I'm dressed down day compared to what you guys were on.
Yes, yeah, it was. Kev was very keen to do that. But when he turned up, he hadn't brought a shirt, so he had to put on one of my shirts.
Fantastic.
I still don't think I've forgiven you guys for doing diagonal and breakthrough for the ETC. I'm holding you personally responsible for that.
Well, it was when we drew Spain, and then I dropped the next ball that came out, and I picked it up. It said Poland. Oh shit!
Ball briefly drops off screen.
Yeah, right.
For the switch,
which was amazing because, as you say, for viewers that don't know, they were 1-2, weren't they? In the end,
they were. Yeah.
Well, yeah, one of them was 1 and one of them was 2, and that's a big controversy.
Yeah, we won't go anymore. But yeah, as I said, Firestorm, a great venue. Mikey pulled one out the bag here with his Vampire Covenant. Another tanker, terrible showing by 1 point. Not winning the tournament. But I mean, some big names, Wes, in that top 5 as well.
Oh yes, yeah, I'm up there.
Yeah,
I'm here still.
Huge shout out to Sam Freestone as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
absolutely
great performance for that. Yeah,
yeah. He smashed me actually round 3, and clearly I was the catalyst for him because he carried that on in day 2, and well done to him for getting so high up. But well done, Mikey. And was Craig winning his Centaurs for this one?
I think he might have.
I think so, yes.
Disappointed with how they were and lamenting their fall from grace. As
yes.
It were.
Yeah, I've got a feeling it was Mikey v Craig in the final as well for this. But yeah, Craig, any chance to get his?
Yes, that's right. It was 11-9 to Mikey in round 5.
So either way, the Centaurs were so close, but probably weren't.
I mean, Mikey's the master of the small to mid win, basically.
Yeah.
Roll through 5 of those and win the event, which is pretty much what he's done here by the looks of it.
Is 78? Is that 5/16s?
Yeah. No, it's
Not quite.
32, 64, 78.
He got 20, 18, 14, 15, and then 11.
Yeah.
That'd be 80, yeah. So
yeah, nice.
Yeah, two points under, but yeah.
I'm
nothing at all like how I said then.
I'm definitely. By the way, I'm definitely going to clip that in the 4 nerds trying to do maths on a. That's one of the best.
I was thinking when you said 5/16. Oh yeah. That does sound about right. It seems high, but
Yeah.
Can't
But that's brilliant. But yeah, no.
Before we
Again,
move on as well, sorry, I wanted to give a shout out to Che, who brought. I think this is. I don't know whether he went to any other events this year, but he went to this one with Asklanders, and he's finished on 57, but he got 0 in that last round. It was against Tanker. So if he'd managed to got himself somewhere around 10 points, he would have finished in the top 5 there with Asklanders on one of his only events for the year.
Yeah.
He smashed it up with
a big shout out to Che. But yeah, 36 again, a very, very decent number, and as always, a lovely venue. Speaking of a lovely venue, the next one was Cardiff Open, and this actually happened either side of ETC. So in September, this was the last one was July. So we've had the ETC, and people. Is it fair to say that September's a time where ETC goers play lists that they don't take to ETC because they just want to have a bit of fun?
I think Tanker took his list, took his Warriors again, for a push list that he could go out and get smashed on Saturday night for, basically, and then did exactly that.
It was a Sunday proof list.
Except he didn't get smashed on the Saturday because I was out and he was nowhere to be found. Bitterly disappointed.
He was too busy smashing players.
He wasn't in Metros till 3 a.m. like the rest of us.
Yeah, there you go. And it pays off apparently.
No, I mean last year he did exactly that and got 90 odd points. So I mean the reason it's clearly the lack of Metros.
Yeah, sure. And third win of the year. This it's card down as the Cardiff Open, but also the Welsh Championships as well. So this was the third of the auto qualifications, and he took it away from people. So he knew at this point he was dead certain to get into the Masters, of course. Anyway, but
it was really shaky before that.
Yeah. So I mean, wiped his brow and carried on after this tournament. But Bondi with a really, really good showing from Kingdom of Ectane as well. Luke Williams with Undying Dynasties, and this. If you haven't seen Luke Williams in the tournaments before, it's because he hadn't gone any at this point, I think, apart from one. So he was a late bloomer in the year, and from this point started to do pretty well. But always has, I think, Luke.
He's a quality act, and let's face it, he's operating behind the back of UD as well, which I'm surprised to see is actually still out there. But it's he knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
there were. Stat from the couple of weeks before this, I believe there were 2 UD armies in the entire ETC tournament.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I think between the two of them, they had a decent average as well.
I think they were one of the best averages in the thing, but it was 2 out of about 240 players.
Yeah.
So do they get because they did well? Presumably, they went down.
Well, I hear the UD Forum were bitterly complaining about their update, and that's clearly the reason.
Yeah, that's it. Clearly. But Luke does well. It takes some Colossus size, which are very good units, to be fair. Warren packing up the rankings there, points. Kingdom of Ectane as well. OP, right?
Mm.
I mean, if Warren can take him to, I mean, he's a pretty good player. To be fair.
Yeah, what was interesting, these two, Chris and Warren, took really different lists to this event. I think Warren's list for this was like 5 big lances and then characters to go in the lances. So I don't think he had any cowboys or anything, and he did really well with it. And then Chris had like a number of cowboys, and then he took 2 units of 5 Pegasus and 2 units of 6 Hedge Knights. And this is back when no one was taking Hedge Knights at all, and he took 2 lots of Naiads as well.
Yes, the Frog Naiads. He did take the Frog Naiads because I played them with my elves and they smashed up elves
and did really well with them.
Yeah.
So what you're saying was KOEOP?
Yeah, basically just throw darts at the book, take that.
Yeah,
You'll be fine.
Absolutely. And Josh picking up the fifth place with the Silver Elves as well. Well done. But yeah, I say Rob took this one on as a TO, did very, very well. 42 players as well. So again, while sort of like there has been a bit of a murmuring, I think overall still getting some decent numbers, which is fantastic to see. Last brawl. So I guess it's a little testimony then to Jordan's fifth resignation from the ninth age, but yeah, last brawl in by Jordan Bladen, who Wes does fantastic food.
Oh yes, food was fantastic again. Highlight of the year is food from Jordan.
Yeah,
Jordan's the best. Definitely do the best food.
Yeah, hands down. And I mean, it helped spur on the players, didn't it, Hugh?
There's that in a brand new Saurian book.
That's one of the reasons. One of them's taking a div master and then getting two demon players for 320s, basically.
Nice.
That
no one knew what I was doing, and I got a nice
unplayable, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, people just kept saying he just gets in the line, just walks at you. There's nothing you can do.
But with this one, it's again Borden Brum, Jordan's home ground. Only 18 players, but I know that there was like 10 dropouts on the day. It was loads of things happened where just people just couldn't make it for different reasons, which was really unfortunate. But still carried on. Testament to Jordan for doing that. And yeah, Hugh smashing the place, Craig getting another good result. Who has we haven't mentioned it yet, has made the Masters, but obviously can't do it for personal reasons as well. But yeah, came second, and Kev, another really big performance there.
I've not played Kev before, but we came really, really close to having a mirror match, like 3 rounds of this whole.
Oh right, wow! We on similar points each round, is that?
Yes, yeah. Like we were points
Incredible.
away from one another the whole way through. Playing next to each other for all of it.
No, nice.
I think I was so close to playing Shane like 3 times in this tournament as well. It was hilarious. The first round we were supposed to play and there was a redraw because of all the knockouts. The second round we were on the same points, but we didn't end up playing. And then I think the fourth round he decided he was going home, so so I had to get that redrawn as well.
Well, there you go.
One of the things
Maybe in a future life you'll play Shane. But yeah, I say Jordan, if you do come back, we'll very much line up for your food. But yeah, good event nonetheless. On to one of the last ones of the year, so getting towards November time. I think we've got this one and one other. Breakthrough, and I done again by Mikey Newman at Element Games. Good showing with 38 players, and Tanker, I know at this one was desperate to get the win for the tournament because it meant the 4th win of the year.
Yeah.
400 ranking points from Tanker this year.
Yeah.
And of course puts him in a position for the perfect season.
It does.
So,
and I mean all his goals set, he pushed his wretched ones forward and they did their job and smashed up people and another 83 points. Again, not quite a Metro's night, but a good score nonetheless. Andy Catlow, big props to him for what has been touted as the biggest submarine ever in a tournament. Losing big day one, drawing and then smashing everyone to get a whopping 74 points after that start. Pretty good.
Yeah, he's a bloody good player actually, Andy. He doesn't play a lot of tournaments, but he knows what he's doing. Yeah, very, very strong player, and great to see him back on the tournament scene as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Another good showing from Josh. And your man Tony Hale getting his best result of the year.
Yes, absolutely. Time to unveil my dark horse for 2023. It is Tony Hale. I got a bit of form for this, of course. You know what, with Trent the T-Bomb Bernard and Che Davis from last year. So Tony Hale is my dark horse for 2023, and this was the first time he'd got onto the leaderboard in the top 5, but he was always there and thereabouts.
He was. if this went to top 10, he would be on virtually everyone because he's actually had a really good year in terms of that front.
Yeah, he has, yeah.
And been pushing the demons for a little while. He says it's his list from 2017 that's finally come good. But
he says if you hang around for long enough, every list goes good.
Yeah, right.
I was going to say that's very persistent.
Yeah, but no, it's done really, really well, and has been crunching out the numbers with it, and well done to him. A little bit of a prop to Jake, because I talked to him quite a lot on this weekend. He took a ID list with no magic. Here.
Yes.
Which is really, really cool to see him do so well. So well done to Jake for that little mini goal, I guess, from his point of view. But yeah, really nice to see someone taking some like different lists and trying out some stuff and doing well. Of course, he's a great player as well, so there is that. But
he's trying a bit more of an aggressive style based on Felix's brief at the time, I believe.
Yeah. So yeah, well done to him for that. And taking us on to our, I believe, last tournament of the year. Oh no, we've got one more. Damn. But it is the last online tournament of the year. Carnage, one that Wes went to despite the lack of food on offer here. Although he got his own, so I guess you can pick and choose.
Yes, I don't remember what tempted me if it wasn't for the food. Yeah, another one with group stages, right? I did really well in my first couple of games, and then I came up against a Sylvan Elf that Fraz had, and just it went terribly. I thought I was in a really good position to get into the knockout stages, then I got completely smashed and everyone overtook me. It was terrible.
I say some really cool lists actually came out of this one. It was 5k, and as you say, the group knockout stage, and it I mean, from that as well, some different names as well coming up. Frank, and I only know him as Frank
dwarven holds as well.
With dwarves, which
wow.
But I believe Frank is pretty notorious, especially with the online events, for bringing crazy lists. This might have been a 7 Thane list. I'm not sure.
Yeah, was this the Mega Thane? Yeah, explosion in the Thane factory.
Quite possibly. But I know that it, as well with it being 5k, those lists sort of are possible. Shout out to Rob, who comes second, very, very close in that. Gareth Willis running his open cards, and as you've already mentioned, Fraz with the Sylvan Elves. Ed, I know this is quite funny as well because he played Staff, I think, as a spare player. Ed took a highborn flying circus list, and one of the rounds was any flyers can't fly. So a lot of his he was playing a list where a lot of his flyers now had movement 2, like with the eagles and things like that. And I found that quite funny. I think he still won though, so screw him. Right? But I thought that was quite good, quite funny. Another one run by Paul, as we mentioned before, for UB Warhol, and a decent 18 players turning up to that and doing that. Good fun, aren't they, Wes? Those ones.
Yes, yeah, and as I said, it means that players who don't necessarily have the time for a full weekend means that they can go along to them, because this is another one that Glenn was able to get to.
Yeah, and which actually takes us on to our last one, which again is quite a fun one in terms of that, but that did actually matter in terms of the rankings, because I know that a few were still searching for a few extra points. It was Bristol's One Day Rumble, run by Dan Tirry, up in Big, Bristol Independent Gaming in Bristol, obviously. It was 12 players got it to the day. It was just a one-day thing. It's nice to see Dwarves smashing the show at one-dayers, right?
Yeah, the last couple of tournaments taken over by Dwarves.
Yeah, maybe that's
what's going on there? Yeah,
maybe
we need to watch out for them at the Masters.
Yeah, right. Or certainly the Masters Open. Some Bondi won this with I remember his dwarf list being weird, but I think it like 8 like greybeard units of like 15 or something. But anyway, Bondi won. Shane coming ever so close to the thing. It was a good battle with Rory, Gareth Willis, and Tom Cruise pulling up the show. But it was 4,500 points custom and Swiss, and the custom was some very interesting scenarios that you may or may not see at Art of War this year. So I think they're going to interest you, and I think that was definitely a theme and something that's come out of not just this year but years before, where a lot of people and tournaments are trying these supplement scenarios and things like that. I know, for example, we didn't touch on it, but the Welsh Open even had I forget what it's called, and I'm going to make it sound dirty or something, but the Bull of the Horns or whatever it was, deployment.
Chevron style sort of thing.
Yeah. You have like an arrowhead cut out of the middle of the board, don't you? And then one person deploys in those corners, and then the other person gets like the
main thing,
dart chunk.
Yeah. So I think people would originally sort of allowed to try them on UB, and that was all good. And I think they're starting to make their way fairly semi-regularly into tournaments, which is really cool because it does mix it up and really makes you think about some of the lists.
Yeah, I think there's the scenario is definitely one of the immutable ones for a lot of the competitive things, and I think there's a lot of the supplementary scenarios are just as valid in terms of play as the regulars, so there's no real reason not to.
No, exactly. And I know that a lot of the TOs do sort of like look at them and sort of work out which one's the best with what. And for example, there was Carnage in the Welsh Open because a lot of the scenarios were picked by people that like MSU. So he was like, right, I'm putting Carnage in there, so you can't just, MSU people out of the game.
The first scenario was with those chevrons. I think I moved the objective like 15 inches away into my deployment zone against my opponent taking MSU.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that was if you deployed however many drops they had left, you got to move or something like that. So that was some really, really fun stuff, and this was definitely one of those days. I know Dan especially was really good about narrative and things like that and trying to fit that in. So well, props to him and props to Bristol Independent Gaming and things like that. Which unfortunately for me takes us to the end of our video in terms of looking at things. But what a year it's been, Matty.
Well, I mean, it really has. I mean, we started off by saying it's a bit of a hybrid year, but you know, there's some of the old, some of the new, it's been really good to see some new faces come through. You know, obviously there's the stalwarts of the game will continue to chug along, but you know, I think there's been some really interesting tournaments in there. You know, and a good spread of distance as well. There was a time, I mean, way back, wasn't it, when it was all sort of Sheffield and Mansfield and stuff. And I think it's great now that there's games all over the place. You know, Manchester, Scotland, Frome coming up as a new venue. So yeah, I mean, I think the scene's alive and kicking, and you know, lots of interesting tournaments there.
And of course, you can now add Durham to that.
You can
a list of venues, which is where Masters and the Masters Open is going to be. And yeah, really excited to go see a new venue from my point of view as well, and yeah, see what they've got up there. But yeah, certainly to echo what you've said, a good mix, and despite a lot of the chat, some still decent numbers going to tournaments.
Absolutely. You know, and if you're out there thinking about taking part in a tournament, go for it. Yeah, absolutely, go for it. You know, you'll find it a very, very pleasurable, you know, and thoroughly welcoming environment as well. So you know, go for it.
And if nothing else, we do good food.
Oh yes.
Right. Wes is a testament to 9 tournaments, good food. That's pretty good going.
Yeah, and my first couple of tournaments as well. I think I'd played like fewer games than once I went to the tournament, I'd over doubled the number of games that I played, and every faction that I played against and opponent was someone and something entirely new as well. So it's a perfectly valid way of getting into the game, even if you struggle to find local games.
No, totally. I couldn't agree more with going to tournaments. I sometimes go to them just for the crack, to be honest, rather than sort of like testing out lists or whatever, because the scene is really, really fun. I haven't had a bad game really yet. Hugh, do you remember your first tournament game?
Oh, what, 9th age or 8th?
Well, either, I guess. Out of the garage sort of thing.
It's probably No. I think maybe it might have. Maybe vaguely remember the list I was using. I took a monster mash back in 8th and just got like cannoned off the whole weekend.
Right, yeah.
But I don't specifically remember that first 20 games. But it was a common ground, which we
right, there you go.
earlier. Yeah.
And do you remember then following on from that your first 9th Age tournament?
Yes, I do. That was I was moving down from Scotland, and I stopped with all my stuff in a van halfway down the trip at Reading, I believe, to go to a 9th Age tournament with all my stuff in a van, and then I carried on the rest of the way home.
Awesome.
That's such commitment. Yeah, the old Spiky Club in the post office venue. Yeah.
I think I had I bought a bunch of VC stuff to take for because they were doing the Law of the Undeath that had just come out or something.
Sure.
Oh wait, no, that's not my first 9th Age tournament. That was 8th. Never mind.
I guess so. Yeah. But you've gone from that to ETC captain again. Congratulations on that. Carl, what a turnaround from Inovan to captain in the ETC team.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Good bunch of players. Present company excluded, of course. Yeah. And then
we're the Taglons, Wes. We've already got a room. They've sent us to our own room.
Yeah.
I specifically requested the other side of the hotel.
Yeah. We're the only double in the whole thing, right?
But no, yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. A couple of new things to try out. But yeah, no, it's going to be a lot of fun, I think.
Yeah. And Wes, your first Masters, obviously gone through this whole year. You've had a very, very, very good year, and your first Masters, and you certainly earned it. I think you were, I want to say 14th in the rankings. 12th,
yes, 14th. I think I was. Yeah, so and I went to Masters Open last year and finished in the bottom third or whatever it was, and then year before I think I finished last in the Masters Open. As I picked up KOE just as we moved over to UB, I was like, oh great, I can play an army that I don't actually own, and did terribly with it, but it was great fun. And yeah.
What a year! What a year! Yeah, looking forward to the Masters.
Yeah, I'm very excited for it. Whether or not it'll go well, I don't know, but I'm very excited to experience it.
Masters is a free for all. You just and then always after the updates as well. You never know what anyone's going to take. There's always a few surprises. It's and I mean predicting who's going to win is always out of the window.
Yeah, because list building always gets really difficult after the update as well, because everything that you've been used to over the last 6 months has changed, and then of course that's changed for everybody else as well. So I've always for factions changes.
I've always thought we should do the Masters, to be honest, with the lists with the free update, but it's never worked out.
It at least gives chumps like me a chance, right? I can catch you out.
Do it in early December instead.
Yes. Yeah. But no, we very much look forward to it. We'll go quickly over to the schedule just for what is remaining of this jam-packed 2 weeks, Matty. And we've got,
there's an awful lot, isn't there, for us, for you spambots out there to get your teeth into. I guess the from our point of view, the most interesting thing is going to be coming up is obviously the who's who, but then I'm looking forward to the Masters, the list review program with Craig Johnson, which it's always really interesting to get those sent through, and you're going, oh no, he did not.
And he doesn't hold back.
Well, this is it. He's not even in the tournament, so he doesn't have to say anything about what he likes or doesn't, or anything like that. So that's going to be great. And of course, if you're watching any of this and you have missed anything that's gone on so far or are looking for stuff, take a pause, take a note of where it is, and go check it out. Like, share, subscribe. Comment on all the different content creators, and I think all that's left to say to my wonderful guests, Hugh, Captain of England, and Wes, Masters Extraordinaire. I'm sure. And I mean, we haven't mentioned it in this because we mentioned it all the way through the podcast, but one of the sexiest voice in Ninth Age.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely. Yeah, you got to stop talking. My wife wants me to go for elocution lessons.
But thank you very much for joining us on this and talking through all the events. And good luck at the Masters.
Yes, best of luck, guys.
Yes,
Lucky
Sixes.
Yeah, smash
Thank you very much for having us.
No, not at all. You are welcome anytime, both of you and all of us. And Matty, that takes us to the end of the video.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's been a long old road to Durham, hasn't it? And but all roads have led there. And what a season it's been. There's been some highs and some lows. Tears, laughter. Hurricanes.
Yeah, and that was just Tony. So
yeah, that was just Tony. Yeah, he's going to be livid that I picked him as my black horse. So it's
you do have the magic touch. If nothing else, it might spur him on and lift him up the highest heights.
It might do.
But thank you very much for joining me once again.
My pleasure, Lucky Sixes, as always.
Is tradition, yes.
And our third year, so yeah, absolutely.
It will be picked up by Sky in no time, right?
We keep going this way, possibly.
Yeah,
possibly.
But thank you very much for everyone that's watched this, and if you've sat through the whole hour, then fair play to you, because I nearly didn't. So well done. We have lots of stuff going on. Do like, share, subscribe from this point of view in the channel, and definitely go check out Paired Weapons podcast, where Matty, they can find yourself and Kev.
They can. Yeah, guests. SoundCloud and all other valuable pod emporii.
Yeah, exactly. But nothing else is left than to say goodbye, see you later, and God bless.
Cheerio.